The following is a local resident producer's program. The program content is the sole responsibility of the producer and does not necessarily reflect the views or policies of CATV2, Oshkosh Community Media Services, the City of Oshkosh, or Time Warner Cable.
Hi everyone, welcome to Eye on Oshkosh. Cheryl, Hentz, and Dan Rylance here, and we're happy to welcome back an old friend of the show, our Oshkosh City Parks Director, Ray Maurer, and we're going to be talking about, some of the upcoming events going on in the parks this summer, but we're going to start off and spend probably the majority of this particular segment talking about the master plan for Menominee Park, which you've probably been reading about in the Oshkosh Northwestern lately, and so welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Welcome
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate your being here.
Good to see you again.
You too.
You had a very nice article, very long one, in the Weekend Northwestern, just the Sunday before we're taping this. And it talks about the master plan that is being developed and that kind of thing. Citizens have recently had an opportunity to, kind of voice their suggestions and concerns and so forth as far as what they want to see in Menominee Park. Has there, and we'll talk about what you've learned from them, but has there ever been a master plan for this park? I know there's one for the zoo that probably is about 10 years old or so.
Right. We haven't been able to locate a strictly master plan for Menominee Park. It's been incorporated into our comprehensive outdoor recreation plan, which is a comprehensive plan for the entire park system, and each individual park has written recommendations and suggestions. But as far as a conceptual plan and coming up with future planning documents and potential costs for those projects, we weren't able to find. So it was incorporated in the major master plan, but as far as something that we're going through right now, it's something that we're looking at new here.
Okay. And why a master plan now? I mean, why, if there's never been one, I mean, I personally think it's a good idea, but if there's never been one up to now, and we've survived all these years without one, why do we need one now?
Well, as part of the comprehensive outdoor recreation planning process last year, we looked at all the parks, came up with an inventory of what's in each park, some recommendations for some of the improvements that we need to make. And as we looked at Menominee Park being about 110 acres and really the jewel of the park system and a major user park, we felt that this park had to have its own planning. So the Parks Board and the Common Council agreed when they adopted our corp that we need to do a separate plan, not only for Menominee Park, but in the next couple of years we'll be looking at South Park as well, because again it's so intensively used that we really want to come up with some great ideas and some improvements for those parks.
And South Park is the second largest one in the city?
Yeah, I think it's roughly the second. There's some smaller nature conservancy areas, but as far as the active use parks, I would say South Park are the next.
So the 2011 draft of the Comprehensive Outdoor Recreation called for the master plan.
That's correct.
And,
yes.
and it said 25,000 in there to do it. I don't know whether. Okay, there's a couple other things. Just go back to this 2011 draft. There are some recommendations in there that you could do right now. For example, there's 2 recommendations on dogs. Off-leash park at dog park at Quarry Park and dogs on leash in other parks. Those have to be city ordinances changes anyway. So you could take the recommendations of 211 and go right to the council, couldn't you, and ask for?
Well, we could, but I think it's going to take a lot more public input on anything that takes place with not only dogs, but in the ordinance it's domesticated animals, so cats, goats, horses, whatever it might be. So you're right that those will take an ordinance change, but going through this plan for Menominee Park and also for the comprehensive plan last year, we've heard a lot on both sides of the fence on allowing dogs or not. So it's not going to be a simple, quick decision.
Yeah.
But it's something I think that will be coming up to the Parks Board later on this year once we get through the master plan. And whether that's, I don't see it simply being for Menominee Park. We might have to look system-wide and come up with maybe some individual parks to allow it or not allow it. And again, we're going to have a lot of public input on that.
Can I just follow up on that real quick?
Yep.
Otherwise, I'll forget.
We don't want to forget.
No, we don't. I'm
I'm
getting at that age, you know. You said there needs to be a little more study done on dogs in the parks. What more needs to be done? Because obviously you've gotten comment from people this time around. There was also a separate study done on dogs in the park. I don't know if that was done before you came or after, but it was done recently. So what else are you looking to do?
Well, I think what we want to hear is, do we want to designate certain parks? We do have one park right now, Rouge Park, out by Traeger School, that does allow dogs on leash. We'll want to hear if that's something we want to expand to the parks. I think we need to look at, do we allow them simply on hard surfaced areas, potentially on walking trails? People are concerned if we allow them in the grass, the droppings may not get picked up. And you're going to have that issue, whether it's in the park or a sidewalk. You're going to have responsible, non-responsible dog owners. So I think we want to have that, open that discussion a little bit more. I think the council members and the park board members have been hearing a lot through the survey process we've done, not only for Menominee Park, but the Corp. That has been a hot issue. I mean, I think in the Menominee Park, I think it was 36% roughly of the respondents said they want to see dogs allowed in the park. But then there was about 20% that said we don't want to see dogs allowed. So it's going to be an interesting conversation, but I think we need to at least bring that forward and get some closure again for a couple of years.
So probably later this year then, you said?
That's what I would hope, yeah.
Go ahead.
The other recommendation from the 2011 plan is the Parks Department should take over scheduling of athletic events from the Rec Department. Is that going to be in the master plan, or you can do that one separately?
That'll be separately. We're actually working on that right now. We do have the software installed.
Okay.
We're finalizing that installation, and we'll be working with the Recreation Department to make that transfer before the 1st of January of next year.
Is there personnel cost in taking that over?
No, it's simply, instead of user groups or reservations for athletic fields going to the Recreation Department, they'll come into Trish at our office or any one of our office staff, and we can access that on a computer and go ahead and
So it's not a big deal, really?
No, I don't, yeah.
Okay. All right.
Well, what will that mean then for the rec department and any staff that they may have that's one of their functions? Will it affect them at all, do you know, or not?
Well, it'll hopefully lessen some of the things that they need to go. It's actually a lot of coordination between the rec department staff, taking the reservations, transferring information to us.
Sure.
The recreation department, if there's an insurance certificate required by a certain user group, they need to request that, send it to us, and then we need to take a look to make sure we have everything covered. So it actually might save some time. Instead of adding a layer, they'd be coming directly to us and helping out some of the staffing at the rec department.
Yeah, I can imagine when you have two, and we just recently did a show with Al from the Recs department. I got to imagine that is tough when you've got two different departments, two different total entities, not just departments within the city, because they're governed by the school district, but two different governing bodies, basically, trying to do some of the same duties. It's got to be a little bit challenging.
Yeah, it's like I said, I think it's a layer that we could maybe look at to make it a little more customer friendly. But we do work real closely with Alan and all his staff, Lori and Veronica and all their staff, not only through the recreation programming and use of our fields, but at the pool, obviously, we work with them as they provide the lifeguarding staff and some other cooperative agreements.
And this is from the 1994-1998 report with some recommendation. It says research has shown that separate departments in the majority of Wisconsin cities and throughout the nation is not the acceptable mechanism for the administration of parks and recreation. Separation of parks and recreation makes them easy targets for reduction of services and reduced budgets because of the competition for dollars against public, whatever. So this recommendation in 94-98 said they ought to be together. They're not, obviously. Is that going to be proposed in the master plan?
No, again, what you had just read from was from the comprehensive plan from 1994 to 98.
Right.
So we're strictly dealing with the master plan for Menominee Park right now. So we're dealing just with Menominee Park. If something like that were going to be discussed, it would have been discussed in a comprehensive plan. Not to say in the future, because 94, 98, we were looking at
My
number
guess
of
is-
years ago.
My guess is this recommendation is dead and buried.
Anything can be brought up again,
Anything can be
but
brought
we haven't had any recent discussions about
Sure.
combining or at this
No,
point.
no.
Again, we've got a great working relationship with Al and his staff. So.
Yeah, I'm not trying to call it, but I mean, it
Yep.
does, and Al did say last time that they're one of very few places
Mm-hmm.
in Wisconsin where they are separate.
Correct.
Yeah,
Yep.
okay.
Yeah. But that has been that way forever.
A long time, he said, yeah.
Forever.
Almost as old as us.
Okay. Well, you know, citizens recently, as I said in the opening, they recently had a chance to, you know, make comment and voice their concerns and suggestions about things they'd like to see in the park. And one of the things that you had been quoted as saying in this article over the weekend was, you know, it's a tough balancing act for you to, you know, meet the needs of the people who are more nature-minded and want the park to remain more of a nature-type setting, in a green-type setting, and those people who would rather see something more recreational, more dog-friendly, dog owner-friendly, that whole kind of thing. So how do you define a park?
How do I define a park? That's when
That's
you
a
caught
good
me off
essay.
guard.
That's a good essay question.
Because that's really what it's going to come down to is, you know, Dan may have one thing about what he feels parks are. I may have another. You have another. You know, that's
He's
part of the
got-
balancing
And he's
act.
got to run and pay for them.
That's part of the balancing act.
Well, and I
you know?
think when you look at Menominee Park, it is such a large area that we can try to accommodate most of these requests. We're definitely not going to please everybody, which we all know, and no matter how hard we try. But 110 acres is a lot of property. And I don't see from the input that we've been receiving us doing a lot of new additions, new buildings. I see a lot of deferred maintenance that we need to start to get caught up on, just like any other department or other entities that have fallen behind. You look at the athletic fields that are currently out there, the Reeds ball fields. We need to get those fields updated. We need to get the fencing updated, the restrooms. Some of those things I'll talk about later as far as what we've already started doing. But I think we can balance that need for the preserving of the green space by not adding additional features at this point. I don't think we've overwhelmingly heard anybody say we want to add more. It's been, let's keep it the same, maybe let's get rid of some of the things we have, but don't disrupt the green space. And I think we heard that loud and clear. So I think a lot of recommendations are going to come down to maintaining the boat launch, maybe adding a little bit more parking because of the heavy use, whether it's athletic fields and boat fishing or fishing tournaments and boating. So maybe looking at some expanded parking potentially, but at the same time, we may have to remove a building and open up some more space to get that parking. So, you know, I don't think there's a lot of things that surprise us. We didn't hear a lot of, we want some, you know, a big community center, or we want, we realize that people don't want to have that vista of the lake disturbed. And whether that's the neighbors, the user groups have told us it's one of the main draws they have at Menominee Park is people like to come there and see the lake. So I don't see us doing a lot of big new additions, more updating and renovating, I would say.
When Dan and I were talking earlier this week in preparation for this show, one of the things that you know, we talked about that is needed, you know, is some additional restrooms in other sections of the park, because really there aren't any. And as someone who walks in the park a lot,
Our talk was a little rough because if you walk in the wintertime, there's no restrooms. And I may get arrested. You know, 2 miles out on Miller's Bay at my age, I don't care if I go before. I'm done. I got to find a tree.
So you're the guy we're looking for.
You're the guy. Yeah. And I'm not going to mention my wife because she would. But I mean, could you put a porta potty year-round somewhere out there?
We've had that request,
Yeah.
and especially on the north end by the horseshoe, what we call it, by the Oaks Trail area.
Yep.
And I think that might be an area that we did hear from a lot of the neighborhood and a lot of the users of the park. Maybe we need to look at a restroom or a small shelter facility up in that area. So we're going to be taking a look at what utilities are nearby, what the cost would be. But it's definitely one of the areas we're going to be looking at. Portable toilets, I think as a neighbor, I don't care to look out my window and see a portable toilet.
I understand.
So, and then you get into some of the issues of, is it going to be vandalized? What's going to happen to it over winter? But to answer your question about not having restrooms in the winter, the recent restroom that was built at Menominee Park across from the amusements,
Right.
that one we did heat. We did upgrade So that celebration of lights, it is heated in the winter so that they can use it a little bit longer. So you will have heated restrooms in the Central Park area. But yeah, that's definitely something on the north side of the park we may be looking at.
I'll give you one example, not a criticism, just an observation. The night of April 11th, there's a softball game between Oshkosh North and Oshkosh West girls softball. There's 100 people in the bleachers. The restroom is locked. There is no place for those 100 people to go.
Well, now that's a question. Why would the restroom be locked when there's activities going on that, especially something
It's
like
a
that
maintenance
has a
thing.
lot of people?
No, I don't even see it as a maintenance thing. What
Really?
we look at typically is April 15th is
Okay.
our date when we set to open restrooms. We did have an early spring this year. Ice went out. We had fishermen calling saying,
Sure.
can we get portable toilets in here? Our biggest concern, and people in construction know this as well, and you probably do, that you can have a freeze in a major storm, and you can be, if we have bursting pipes, we're going to have a lot more maintenance and a lot more issues than 100 people needing to use the restroom. We're going to be coming back looking at some major renovation. So not having heat in the restrooms, we look at bursting pipes. If we can get in there April 1st, and between there and the 15th, what we try to do is open up the busier ones. The leach before the marathon is open. Some of those heavier use ones. So yeah, that might be one we need to look at a little bit earlier, but we do have those issues that we need to be concerned about.
Okay, all right. What other kinds of things did you hear from people, Ray, in the recent survey? You said nothing really surprised you a whole lot,
no,
but
I think
were there things that people mentioned that are possible to be done and that you think should be done?
Yeah, I think a lot of good discussion took place as far as looking at some more of the native or the prairie type plantings, whether it's along the shoreline or in some of the wetter areas of the park that are not used. We have heard from the sustainability board members their thoughts and concerns, and make it a little more educational, put up some of the prairies. And we do have a little pilot program on the tip of Ames Point that we did some plantings last year and then again a couple weeks ago. So we're going to wait and see how that turns out. I think the park board wants to say, let's see how this looks before we expand it along the shoreline or within the park. But it's something we'll be taking a look at. There's concern about from the neighbors saying, is it going to turn into a weed or a thistle haven? But those are things we'd have to look at as far as maintenance, and maybe working with a neighborhood group to say, help us to maintain this and work with us, whether it's a garden club or something like that. So I think that was a lot of good discussion. A lot of it came down to, again, updating the athletic fields. I don't think we heard a lot about adding athletic fields, although you might have heard some complaints, don't do that. I think it's more of, let's update what we have and maybe get a better concession stand at the REITs area and the restrooms, replace the fencing, some of the scoreboards, and then a couple of the diamonds that don't have outfield fences, maybe we can put the outfield fence up.
Okay.
Not saying we're going to light anything at this point again, because that would be a little more infringement on the neighborhood, but I think those were a lot of the big things. The other one is expansion of the beach, making the beach a little bit larger, and we're looking at doing that, maybe expanding it to the south a little bit more.
Okay.
And then the other one was the parking issue. We've heard that loud and clear throughout the year, and we'll hear it once all the fishing tournaments, that we need to try to find more parking. So I
The
think
biggest eyesore is that Melvin watershed building. It really is. I mean, I know you didn't say we're going to put it there, but we're talking flood control. There are more watersheds going further north. What if the city said we're going to put another one, 1,000 yards to the north of where that one is, and we're going to put another one? I mean, that water's. Where else are we going to put the water? Isn't that a sort of maybe a concern that they may put another one there?
I have not heard anything, and I'm not going to broach that subject right now because I don't see it happening in the near future as far as another building going there. I think the city has heard loud and clear from the neighborhood that they may not like how it looks.
Right.
I don't think we all understand the good it's done in some of the big storms we had, but I think there might be alternatives, and we have not had any discussions about adding any other further pump stations.
But there are more watersheds going further north, right?
I
And on the other end, the Melvin people are really happy this year because that one did work in this flood. I mean,
Exactly.
they don't have water in the basements.
It's doing what it was built to do.
Exactly. So, okay, well, I'm a little bit more of a pessimist. But, let's talk a little bit about Miller Bay weed control, zebra mussels. The issue in the bay is whether you put fertilizer or pesticides or whether you get a machine and cut it. What are the people telling you on that?
Again, we've been hearing from the sustainability board that we should be looking at some more sustainable and environmental friendly
Okay.
activities. And weed harvesting is something that our staff has looked at since I've been here, and prior to that they were looking at it. We look at the capital cost of purchasing the equipment, the cost of maintaining it, the cost of operating it. In another community I was at, prior to coming to Oshkosh, we did have a weed harvester, and we did a small lake, and it was a lot of cutting and a lot.
You
It
do
was
it all the time.
it was weed harvesting basically, and we had two full-time gentlemen committed to that throughout the summer months. So it's something we're looking at.
Yeah.
But right now it's down in the capital plan. Part of the Miller's Bay plan had that we should look into it in 2013 and 14 and maybe have a contractor come in. There are contractors that could come in and do that. So right now it's still, we're looking at the costs. We've looked at the costs. We don't want to purchase a used machine because if we're using it that heavily, you're increasing your maintenance costs. So there's a lot of different things that we need to look at balancing. Luckily, we've had, I think the last 2 summers haven't been really bad for the weed growth. It all depends on the weather and the runoff and so forth. But
How bad is zebra mussels?
from what I've been hearing, it's pretty bad throughout the western shore of the lake, especially. Again, it's one of those things that we need some assistance from the DNR, whether there's anything we can do now or if it's too far down the road. Same thing with the weeds. We often apply for grant assistance for the DNR to give us some help with that. I think the zebra mussels, it's going to come down to, the boat, anybody coming in and out. Same thing with the milfoil and the transferring of weeds. And is it too late? I don't know, but I know there's a definite problem for.
I may be wrong in this, but I heard some parks are actually buying an automated boat wash for the zebra mussels. Like you go and have your car washed, you drive it in, and they put that in one of the main places where they're docking the boats.
Yeah, I haven't heard that.
And they drive it in there and it washes. I'm sure that's expensive, but that would be one way to control. But I've heard it's pretty bad. I mean, it's too late maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything else on Menominee Park?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Well, I do have one thing
Okay.
before we move on.
Okay.
And that has to do, it's a controversial issue, but you're always up for those, I know. The Sawdust Days people have been given an exemption this year for the special use fee. Obviously, a lot of citizens upset about that, and in my opinion, rightfully so. I know Mark Roloff has said that, in some ways, he sort of feels like waiving that fee for them, giving them an exemption, sort of offsets their contribution to the fireworks display, which, that didn't feel good on my ears, whatever that was.
It happened when I was out there too.
Oh, okay.
I don't
All
really-
right. Well, as long as we still have our hearing,
Yeah,
we're good. So I don't know if that has, in fact, offset what their fee would be or not, but Mark says it does, and so I've got to take him at his word on that. But it also seems like they should not be given an exemption, period. No one else is. Do you see this as maybe the beginning of the end for special things being given to the Sawdust Days people, and that they will have to pay a fee in the future like everyone else?
Your guess is as good as mine. My only response to that is that's a policy decision that the
Okay.
Common Council needs to make. We as city staff provide the information as far as each department, what we estimate it may cost for those events. It goes to the city manager Roloff, and he makes the recommendation to the council. But ultimately, it's a policy decision by the Common Council. And you're right, it was controversial. It was a long meeting that took place,
Yeah,
but I think
yeah.
a lot of good discussion as well. So my answer to that is that's going to depend on the future councils and how they feel to move forward with that policy.
What kind of cost is associated with Sawdust Days? And does that cost that you're going to give us include police attendance and supervision of this, or is that something separate?
If I recall correctly, the estimated cost was about $18,000 to $22,000 roughly. The majority of that being police costs, is my
Okay.
understanding, and I guess mostly for July 4th, the day of the
Yes.
fireworks.
Remember, the chief was on, and he's saying they're paying double pay for every employee on July 4th.
Yeah.
We, as far as the Parks Department, where our costs are minimal because we help out with some of the hauling of benches, hauling of tables, some of those smaller things. I think our estimated cost is probably $2,000 to $3,000, which to me is not a lot for a big event like that. So, those are the costs that I've heard. A lot of it would be contributed to police overtime and so forth.
Okay.
How about physical damage and wear to a park like that? Like the big golf courses, they got to close them for a couple weeks later because so many, there's like thousands and thousands. What are there any, does the park obviously looks worse after Sawdust Days is left? How long does it take to bring it back to?
Surprisingly, we've been pretty pleased with after the event, whether it's the volunteers or the groups that help Sawdust Days, as far as the cleanup of the debris and so forth. We've been very pleased the last couple of years with that. As far as the damage, it all depends on the weather. If we get some rainy weather and they've got the amusement rides, or if they've got tents and so forth set up in the turf area, it's all weather dependent.
Sure.
And around that time, sometimes it's burnt off grass that's dormant anyways. So I don't think we've had some major costs. We do reserve the right through the special event policy that if they do damage, beyond what would be normal wear and tear, that we can bill them. And as far as I know, we haven't had to do that in the last couple of years.
So they would be, that event policy would be applicable to them even though they haven't paid the fee and they're exempted from that. The rest of the policy remains in place?
Yeah, they would still go through the special event application process.
Okay.
The waiving of the fee is a whole separate issue that the
Okay.
Common Council needs to take up, and you'll see that on the council agenda. It's a separate listing of the item. Approval of the event, and then they take up the waiver, the non-waiver of the fee.
Okay. All
Have
right.
you ever talked to the county park person and saying, I had a dream last night and we moved, Sawdust Days out to the county park? Have you ever talked to them about maybe having the Sawdust Days in the county park?
We haven't talked internally or anybody
Okay.
externally about moving it because, again, through our department, we haven't had major issues that we've had to contend with. So we do talk to the county parks on other issues, but that has not been something that
Okay.
we've talked about.
Okay, all right. Well, in our remaining 5 minutes or so, why don't we talk about things going on in the park system overall this coming summer? Why don't we start with the Leech?
Okay. Excitingly, we're offering a new concert series this year with a generous sponsorship and donation from the Downtown Bid Board. We're starting a Tuesday night concert series. It's called Streaming Live at the Leech. And what we are trying to do is bring in some local flavor bands. They either play in the Oshkosh Fox Valley area or they have some connection here. So that's going to be starting Tuesday nights, a 6-week concert series. Starts June 19th, goes through July 31st. There won't be a concert on July 3rd because of Sawdust Days. We don't want to be
What
competing.
time do they start?
The music will go from 6:30 to 8:30. So we're encouraging people to come down ahead of time. We're going to have, obviously we want them to come down, visit downtown Oshkosh, visit the businesses, go out and get their meal and drinks, come down and enjoy some music, and then go back out downtown and enjoy the businesses. We do have the first night, June 19th, Copper Box, a local Oshkosh favorite, is going to be kicking off our inaugural season, so we're excited for that. If you don't mind, I'll run through the bands
sure,
real quickly.
Does Cheryl and I have to pay if we go to this?
Cheryl has to pay double, actually, if she comes
I
down.
knew that was going to happen.
I'll pay mine and yours, it sounds
Well, I
like.
hope so.
No, we're actually, again, thanks to the donation that we can help pay for the bands, we could keep the costs down.
Okay.
We're looking at a $5 admission charge, $3 for anybody with a student ID, that
Okay.
doesn't, high school,
Sure.
college, whatever,
Okay.
and anybody 12 and under with a responsible adult will be free. So we're trying to offer, again, going back to what we've been hearing is some of the more affordable community events at the Leech, and that's what we're trying to do.
And no senior discount?
We didn't talk about a senior discount, but that's something we
Cheryl.
could probably talk about.
I like you too. That's good.
Well, because
no.
they're always included in everything,
Yep,
so.
and we're trying to get a mix of young, old, everybody down there to enjoy some different music. So again, June 19th, Copper Box. June 26th, Orpheus. It's a young band out of the De Pere area. They're actually down in Tennessee and Florida being on a tour right now. We saw them a couple times in the area and really thought they'd be a neat draw. July 10th, Tin Sandwich, a local Oshkosh favorite. July 17th, Booze Truckers, again, a Oshkosh connection there. July 24th is the Mad Polecats. And then July 31st, Greg Waters and the Broad Street Boogie Band. Another neat thing that we're doing is we're really trying to focus on local, whether it's downtown, getting people downtown, but we're also working with Lee Beverage locally. And they are coming in and they're going to set up a craft brewery, two different craft brews each Tuesday night. So we're going to be trying to get some different flavors, different opportunities for people to come down and give a try. So each night they've designated a different Wisconsin brewery or two different Wisconsin breweries they're going to feature along with some of the Stay Fast lead beverages. So we're really excited about that, and we encourage you to come down. We think it's going to be a great addition to the Leech, and we're hoping for a great season.
Tuesdays and Thursdays.
That's correct.
Yes, and
Yeah.
Thursdays, of course, is Waterfest.
Yep, and we've, Waterfest, the organizers, we've met with a number of times on this. They're wholeheartedly supporting us. They're going to help us to promote our events, and obviously we're going to help to promote theirs. So, otherwise at the Leech, we've got a lot of the mainstays. We've got Irish Fest the first weekend of June. We do have our Waterfest will be starting June 14th. June 13th, I'll go back, we have the Oshkosh Area Community Band Concert. That's a free event.
Thank you, Rick.
One thing we are seeing is the number of weddings. In June, we have three Saturdays, I believe, that there are going to be weddings down at the Leech, and just about 2 to 3 every other month. So again, that's something we're trying to promote is local use, whether it's community organizations or community businesses, or for the weddings and some of the events we're sponsoring. Another item I wanted to share is on July 21st, we are going to have a family night at the Leech. We have an entertainer. It's a children's musical and a family musical entertainer, Randy Peterson. And then at about 8:30 or so, just around dark, we're going to have a 20-foot blow-up screen on stage. We're going to have an outdoor movie down there. We're going to be doing those at the Leech, and then there's a couple times at the pool we're going to be offering those as well.
Okay, super. All right, terrific. And if someone wants to rent a shelter or a pavilion or whatever in any of the parks, all they have to do is call your office.
236-5080.
All right. Can they register for that online as well?
Register for a park rental? Or,
Yeah.
Not at this time, but going back to the software and the
You're getting
registration,
close.
eventually we're
All
going
right.
to be going in that direction.
All right, terrific. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Enjoyed. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we'll be talking with Dennis and Karlene Leatherman about the upcoming Oshkosh Saturday Farmers Market. We'll be right back.
Every year, the U.S. Department of the Treasury receives about 1.4 million reports of problems with paper checks. Checks can be lost, stolen, or delayed. If you still receive Social Security payments by paper check, Treasury wants you to know about a safer, more convenient way to get your money. The Direct Express Prepaid Debit MasterCard. The Direct Express card is new and is available to anyone receiving Social Security benefits, even if you don't have a bank account. Your monthly benefits will be automatically placed onto your card account each month on the day your money is due. While other debit cards cost money, it is possible to use the Direct Express card for free to make purchases, pay bills, and get cash at thousands of locations nationwide. There are no sign-up or monthly account fees. No more waiting for the mail or worrying about lost or stolen checks. Call 1-877-212-9991 or visit www.usdirectexpress.com.
And welcome back to Eye on Oshkosh. And as I promised before the break, Karlene and Dennis Leatherman are here. Dennis is obviously to my left, and, and seated next to him is his wife. They are the organizers and I guess the go-to people for the Oshkosh Saturday Farmers Market. Now this is your second year that you guys are overseeing this, or
No, more than
did
that.
you do this before?
This is our third year of
Handling it?
overseeing it, second year here
On Main Street, okay. All right. So give us, we've had you on before, but give us a little recap for anyone who may have missed the show of what your results were for the farmers market in its first year last season, or last summer, down in the 2 blocks of Main Street, 400 and 500 blocks of Main Street.
Okay,
Go ahead.
okay, I got it. We averaged 100 vendors every Saturday. Police department estimates 9,000 to 10,000 customers every Saturday. There were only 6 food vendors that came with us from City Hall down. We had 6 egg roll vendors, which, you know, be careful what you ask for, because all 6 complained that there were too many egg roll vendors. So the board of directors decided we should cut back to 4. So this year there will only be 4 egg roll vendors, but we picked up hot dog vendors and grilled corn vendors and pulled pork sandwiches and the full gamut again this year. The market last year was embraced by the city. We could not have asked for better support. It was a wonderful, marvelous undertaking. So that's
One question, egg rolls real quick. My granddaughter wants to know if Lee is going to be back with egg rolls this year.
Yes.
Oh, God, thank goodness. Okay, that's very important to her. Okay, thank you.
All right, okay.
Okay.
I don't know what that's all about, but
Okay.
it sounds good
Very
for
good
your
egg rolls.
granddaughter. All right.
right.
And so, you know, you've got a laminated map here, you've got charts and graphs and what have you. Do you spend all year planning this and you know, prepping for the summer months?
A lot of it.
Okay.
Yeah. I think we probably take a month off, but by January we have all of our entertainment booked.
Okay.
And the applications go out in February. By March they're back. By April we're filling the spaces, and up to today we're still receiving phone calls, people looking to get into the market.
And this is a volunteer contribution by both of you, is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
There's no money going to this from,
Yeah,
No.
this is,
that's important.
I've got a good retirement. I've got my Air Force
Okay,
retirement,
okay.
my old age retirement, my VA. So
Okay.
I'm giving back to the community.
Wonderful. Yeah,
So,
But I still work.
okay, that's okay too.
And so, Karlene, you said you're still getting calls. Do you have space yet for people who want to come in and be a vendor, or are you filled up now?
We're actually full, excuse me, full and overflowing. Sorry. And anybody that calls now, we put them on what we call our fill-in list.
Okay.
So if a vendor does call and can't make it for whatever reason, we don't really care why. We do have a list that we can go to and give these people a call and say, hey, I've got an open day for you. They can't get any full season anymore, but if they're available for a, you know, quick turnaround, we have room.
I sense expansion is with requests that you can't fill. There was an article in the Scene magazine this month that said you ought to move up to Opera Square. Could you just talk briefly about, you know, in the future, are we going to have to expand? Would Opera Square be a good moving up further or not?
If you two can get US Highway 45 moved 1 block south, we will seriously consider Opera Square. But right now, US Highway 45 is Main Street in Algoma, and to close that requires major detours,
Gotcha.
and it's an expense and a problem that we just can't face.
I understand.
If we can get it moved, and we understand the people downtown are trying to get it moved. At
Sort
that
of an
point,
optimum place to continue the
Right.
farmers
Right.
market. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But the other thing that you've got to remember is that if we open up Opera Square for the farmers market, that means nobody else can have it any Saturday during the summer.
Okay.
Because once we take over to try to tell our vendors that they've got to go someplace else, or tell 9,000, 10,000 customers where to find us, because the Gus Mocker 3-on-3 basketball or the different things that go on, and so that's a problem that will have to be looked at. That was
But there are a lot of problems if you went up there, is what you're
Right.
saying. Yeah, I understand.
that was part of the reason that we ended up on Main Street. You know, the city had been looking at trying to get us down in the Leach parking lot, down into the Riverside Park parking lot area, and then it all of a sudden dawned on them that Well, they'd have to tell Dragon Boat, and they'd have to tell Irish Fest, they'd have to tell Oktoberfest to go find someplace else. Well, that wasn't going to happen.
If you went north, you'd have to go all the way to Irving too, which is a long stretch,
Right.
isn't it? Huh?
And there's an awful lot of residences
Yeah,
and
that's-
huge parking lots in there. It's just
Yeah,
not
I understand.
feasible.
Yeah. But it is so successful, and you are getting more people than
Yes.
that. You know, it,
And we may have to do more of what we did this year. We reached a point, we were getting so many applications, new agriculture vendors, and even more and more and more craft vendors. Our craft vendors this year are only vending every other week. So when you come down to the market, if you're a regular customer, you're going to see 20 or so vendors this Saturday, a different 20 the following Saturday. And the majority of the craft vendors were very, very fine with that. So that was one way that we were able to expand. And
Some communities are having an evening market, like on a Tuesday or Wednesday during the week. You couldn't. I'm not suggesting you go double, but some communities are doing that rather than Saturday. I suppose another option would be you could have a Saturday market and you could have a Wednesday market.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Just thinking.
Are those successful though? I'm
Oh, I
assuming
think-
you've read
I
up
think
on
they
it.
are.
So.
Yeah. Yeah. I think what you people did more than anything else is
Yeah.
you really demonstrated the value of Main Street for the whole city.
right.
I mean, truly, a major achievement. And with the renovation of Main Street, you know, so I'm just thinking there are other possibilities, that other nights, other days, because it is really the showplace of Oshkosh as far as, so that's all. Yeah.
Okay. We agree.
Yeah. Now that you got listed here, you got a winter market. I read that somewhere. The ad also lists November 3rd as the opening of the winter market. Is that for Oshkosh too?
Yes,
You
it
better believe
is.
it.
Oh, tell us about the winter market. Do you know anything about the winter market?
I don't know a thing, but I'm about to.
Yeah. Tell us.
Well, 2 weeks after the summer market closes,
Okay.
there will be a winter market in City Center in the Jackson Street Concourse,
Okay.
which is the old Sears wing,
Okay.
Park Plaza. Our assistant manager from the summer and one of our vendors are going to co-manage. It's going to be an every other week, so it's not an every week,
Okay.
and it is not going to be a craft fair.
Okay.
There's still things you can get in the winter, some
Okay.
canned things, or early in the winter you can get some of the gourds and pumpkins and things like that. So that will be
Starting early November.
Yes,
Okay. And how long will it go?
that will go until April. So we'll have a 1 week or a 1 month gap,
Okay.
and then we'll be firing up the summer one again.
Dan's in his glory over here now. He is
They're
excited.
going on a cruise. They're not going to do this for the winter. They're going to.
Well, and that's part of the reason why we haven't had a winter one up to it's because we need to have a
No,
little,
and I
a
mean
little
that
break from it too.
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
But when we had two people that were
Willing to
willing
do
to
it.
do it, it's like we'll support them. We'll
I think that's really
not
neat.
reinvent the wheel, but
Yeah,
we'll be there to help
yeah.
them.
Sure.
So you are really expanding in a different
Right.
time of the year,
Yeah.
not just different bigger locations.
One of the things that happened right after the summer market wrapped up, we got together with Ken Friedman, a retired lawyer, and we established the Oshkosh Saturday Farmers Market Incorporated
Okay.
as a nonprofit, non-stock. And the board of directors, Karlene and I are president, secretary, treasurer of the board of directors. Several influential people from the city are on the board. And one of the first decisions we made was this has been so successful and the community has embraced it so well that the board said, let's do a Saturday winter market if we can find people to run it for us.
I think
And
that's great.
Kathleen and Michelle stepped forward, and Karlene and I will back them up as far as much as we can. But we'll probably be there most of the time, but we won't have to be there. That's going to be the key.
Yeah. Well, everybody needs a break, you
That's
know.
right.
So, for someone who has never been to not just this farmers market, but any farmers market, tell people a little bit about what they can expect. Is there a cost for it other than buying whatever produce and other items that you want to get? Just kind of run through the basics for us.
There's no cost. You come and go as you please. Like you said, it's whatever you choose to buy. If you choose to buy nothing and just want to come and listen to the music, we have entertainment every week. at the corner of Main and Merritt in Church.
They list all of them on here.
Yep,
on
I
our
saw them.
Yep,
Yep.
on our schedule we
Wonderful.
have several, and also along with the music we have several special events. We have a day for the kids where we have special events for them. In June we're going to have all of the contestants for the Miss Wisconsin pageant down at the market in their finery signing autographs and such. We've got a blood drive coming up, and the Fine Arts Association will be there with their artists, and you can walk up and try your hand at painting or whatever craft that they're doing. But like you said, no cost, and come on down.
Yeah.
And in terms of the actual market, we're a farmer's market, first and foremost. So agriculture vendors trump everything else. People come to the market to buy what's in season. Our website, which all of this stuff can be found on our website,
And we've got the address. We've been, I think, putting it up. If not, it's there for them too.
have a listing on the website of what produce is in season different months. And you can go by the month and see what's available. You can look up a produce and see when it's available. The produce, what we ask our vendors, we tell our vendors, the majority of what they sell at the market has to be produced by them. We do allow them to bring stuff from other areas, like southern part of the state has got stuff earlier than we do. If it's from out of state, they have to label it as such. We do have some Indiana melons earlier in the year, and
They're bigger
Michigan
and earlier.
blueberries, and Georgia peaches, and one of the things that
Blueberries.
one of the things we're adding this year, we've got a fish vendor coming. We'll be having fresh Lake Michigan whitefish, chubs, smoked Alaskan salmon and Canadian trout. So,
Oh, that's good.
you know,
Yeah.
How do you folks get your ideas as far as what you want to put in the market? You know, like the fish thing. I don't know why, but I guess I just wouldn't think of that as a farmer's market kind of thing. So how do you come up with ideas? Do you look at other farmers market websites, or just comes off the top of your head?
We wait for the phone to ring.
They know about it,
we-
they call you.
Yes.
this
Okay.
has been, we've built a better mousetrap. People are beating, we have not gone out and asked a single vendor to come to the market. We wait for them to call.
Wow. That's wonderful.
Can you generalize what economically this farmer's market does in a season? Any ideas on how could you, what does this mean economically to the community, to the vendors? Is there any way you could, a ballpark figure on anything?
Well, one of our vendors last year on opening day sold more at the market than he did the entire previous season.
I bet he's coming back.
He's coming back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
Okay,
so
well, that's a
you
good
know,
way of, yeah.
So some of them are seeing very much the
Yeah.
benefits.
Yeah.
You know, I don't have
Yeah, no,
a
and
dollar figure.
it's a difficult question, but you know, we're always asking. Someone said that this thing brought in $25 million.
Oh,
That was the sawdust people. They said that on Common Council that they generated $25 million worth of business, and they didn't ask for the figures, but they did give that amount.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, we
yeah,
get 9,000 customers
yeah,
every Saturday.
yeah.
The average customer, I would assume, spends $10 or $15 at least.
And that'd be a good way to come up with just a ballpark
Right.
figure. Yeah,
So 21 weeks at
that's a lot of money.
10,000, that's
Yeah.
210,000 people coming to
Yep.
downtown Oshkosh.
We're over 1 million.
Which, speaking of sawdust days, I think we beat them.
I had is that we leading to the next question, or you want to
Well,
leave
not
that
just
to the
yet.
Okay.
We'll leave that one until
I think I
pretty
know
close to the
where
end.
this is coming. and
We gave you a little.
But speaking of your vendors and so forth, you know, there's a lot of people, and I mean, a lot of people are under the misconception, I think, that if something is grown by a farmer, it's automatically organic and natural. That isn't the case. But of your vendors, do you know offhand how many organic farmers you might have in your list of vendors?
we don't have any certified organic.
Okay.
And that there's, I guess, a lot of red tape to go
Yeah,
through
there
that.
is.
There's several of them that advertise that no pesticides are used, and
A couple of chicken people, I think, are advertise
Right.
range chickens or something.
Right.
Yeah.
Free
Range
range
chicken,
eggs.
Yeah.
we've got range chicken, eggs that are range-fed eggs. We've got all sorts of, the vast majority of our farmers and vegetable producers do follow organic practices. But the cost to be a certified organic is just very, very prohibitive. Basically, the customer should ask. You know, if a person is selling down there and they're doing organic, they'll be happy to tell you that they're doing organic and what
Sure.
they're doing.
Sure.
And they'll normally have little signs up saying, you know, we practice organic farming. And
You never know whether, I mean, it's really an elastic word. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
yeah. You know. One question on rain policy.
Sure, yeah.
I think I've read that you won't cancel it generally because of rain, but let's say you got 3 inches or 4 inches on Friday, the day before. Would you close it, and how could you advertise that you were going to close it, or wouldn't you close it?
we wouldn't close
You
it.
wouldn't close it.
No.
Okay.
We wouldn't close
Okay.
it, just because of rain,
Yeah.
no.
Okay.
If we were in a tornado warning or we have weather that's going to be, you know, electrical storms, et cetera,
Okay.
then we might.
Okay.
And we did last year.
Okay.
And what did you do then? I mean, how,
Well, we weren't prepared last year.
Okay.
This year we are prepared. We do have NOAA radio available. We have purchased an iPad. We can put it on Facebook, we can put it on our website immediately. The instant we decide that it's, we've been generating, you know, asking everybody, you know, hey, be friends with us on the Oshkosh Saturday Farmers Market Facebook. And the instant we know, it'll go out to everybody that's friends with us. That'll be the best way to check.
Sure.
It's got
and
to be
Twitter
digital.
too, and Pinterest, those are
Yeah.
those are other social
Exactly.
media things.
Yeah.
What's your greatest fear starting this season? I mean, maybe you don't think that, but you know, if you guys are really organized and really are thinking through this, what's the worst possible thing that could happen to a Saturday's market for a season?
Terrible weather.
Okay.
I mean,
Like
this year,
lots of Saturdays, bad weather.
this year is going to be
Yeah.
very, very interesting because our early produce is going to be real early,
Right.
and the normal produce, a lot of our vendors got rained out
Right.
and flooded out. So we may see a
A gap.
big gap in there of, you know, people running out of the early stuff early in the season. But that's where the fill-in vendors come in very, very handy. Our produce vendors will tell us that they can't make it, and we can call. You know, one produce vendor normally allows me to bring in 3 craft vendors.
Okay.
Okay.
What's your greatest joy from doing this?
A smile on people's faces
Yeah.
as they enjoy the market.
Yeah. You guys are really people, aren't you? I mean, you can just see it that you
Yeah.
like. Yeah. Okay.
Well, we practice our management by walking around. So
Yeah.
we are there,
Yeah.
5 a.m. set up until the last vendor is gone.
Yeah. Okay. What are the hours of the farmers market?
8 to 12:30.
8 to 12:30,
Yeah.
and every Saturday, starting when again?
June 2nd,
June 2nd, and going through.
October 20th.
All right. Okay. And of course, as we mentioned, you've got the website, OshkoshSaturdayFarmersMarket.com. You can also find them on Facebook, so there'll be more information there. In our remaining couple of minutes or so here, I want to talk about something a little bit heavier, a little bit more controversial, and it has to do with the special event users fee that the city has started charging groups. You guys asked for an exemption from that fee. The city denied it. They have not granted an exemption to anyone until recently, where they granted one to the Sawdust Days people. Obviously, if you've read the comments attached to the stories in the newspaper, people are really up in arms over this. They don't feel that sawdust days should have been given an exemption, nor do Dan and I. How do you feel about the fact that sawdust days got the exemption and you guys, along with no one else, were able to get one?
I got a feeling that this will be the last exemption sawdust days gets.
I think you're right.
I think there's just enough going on, and as they pointed out when ours was turned down, the $2,200 fee that we had requested, which had we known better, we wouldn't have asked it for. But each vendor, $1 would have covered it all.
Now, didn't someone step up and pay for
Yes.
your waiver? Do you want to mention that too?
Yes,
Yeah.
I will.
Okay.
Let me finish.
Okay,
my
I'm sorry.
thought.
Okay.
You know, there's no reason why sawdust days can't do exactly the same thing that we do. We look at our expenses. This is what we've got budgeted for advertising, for music, yada, yada, yada. And, okay, I have to charge each vendor this amount to cover that. Sawdust days can do the same thing.
Exactly, and it's a business expense for these people.
Right.
They deduct it from their taxes.
Sure.
It's not like they're really out the money,
Right.
you know. And so, yeah, as Dan mentioned, someone did step up
Right.
and pay the fee for you folks. Who was that, and why did they say they felt compelled to do so?
Well, after we were turned down, it was probably 2 days later, Gary Lurch from Service Oil called and said, would it be okay if I paid that for you? He didn't say, do you want me to pay it? It's can I pay that for you? And we thanked him immensely.
Yeah. Very good.
Why Service Oil? I mean, it has nothing really to do with farmers markets.
No.
Why was this such an important thing for him to do? And thank you to him for doing that.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You know,
Absolutely.
but why was it so important for him to do it?
He and Ann love the farmers market. They're more the Madison market than the Oshkosh market. But they totally believe in the farmers market and that the whole farmers market scene. And they just thought it was terrible what had happened, and they wanted to step forward and do something. And they also very, very active in the Humane Society. If you go out and look at dogs out at the Humane Society, you'll see their name all over the place that they've supported this one and supported that one. So that's the kind of people that they are.
Also, it characterizes the success of the farmers market.
Right.
They wouldn't be doing it if you hadn't made it so successful.
Right.
Right,
Yeah.
right. All right, well, very good. Well, we are just about out of time. So again, the farmers market runs from June 2nd until October 20th, 8 to 12:30 every Saturday, down in the 400 and 500 blocks of Main Street. Rain or shine, unless there's a tornado or some kind of very bad threatening weather. And then check Facebook and check, I don't know, maybe by then you'll be on Twitter, who knows. But check the website and check Facebook to see if there's any cancellations or temporary closures of the farmers market if the weather does get bad. Thanks to both of you for being here and for doing
Absolutely.
everything that you do. It's a wonderful community service, so thank you very much.
We thank you.
Thank you for having us again.
Sure, it's our
welcome.
pleasure. All right, that's going to do it for us. We will see you next time. Until then, take good care. Keep your eye on us. We've got our eye on Oshkosh.